Hi everybody. So happy solstice. I'm actually doing something special for y'all for solstice. So I'm doing a class that I typically do at my house, but you know me, it's solstice, so I had to get outside. So hopefully all of my students will find me, because usually I do this class, I do a monthly. I know some of you get bothered because I let my headphones get all tangled, but you have to just deal. That's just me. So hopefully you guys will all find this. Those of you in my cosmic membership and thank you for your patience. I just at the last minute realized that I can't access Zoom. I was all excited to teach you guys outside today, and then I realized I can't really access Zoom from my phone. So I was like, I'll just do this as a little special thing for just everyone for the solstice. I'm just going to find a good spot up here to sit and be and share with you guys all about this Cancer season. So I do a monthly workbook and class for members to really get the most out of the season, understand their own charts better, know where this is happening in your own chart. So Cancer is ruled by the moon. Cancer is the feminine sign, ruled by the moon, the ocean, tides, the waters. Very intuitive, very nurturing, can be self-protective, can be wanting to hide in their own shell, can feel like people's eyes are kind of like peering into their own lives in a way because they're so sensitive and they're so intuitive. If you have a lot of Cancer energy in your chart, you're so intuitive that you think everybody else is, but it's not the case. No one can really see in your shell unless they're intuitive too. And then they're just worried about other people seeing in their shell, so they're not even concerned, right? Where's that rock? Now I'm getting breathless. So yay! Happy solstice! It's beautiful up here. So usually there's a rock. I have to find my rock. I hope you guys will stay with me here. So, Cancer season. It goes from June 21st today. I don't know if you guys could feel the emotions. Emo. I was feeling a little silly too. Feeling a mix of silliness and some emotions. And Cancer season goes all the way to June 21st to July 22nd-ish, to look at the exact date. But when the sun is in Cancer, all those things might be up. You just might be noticing a little bit more sensitivity. We also have a partial solar eclipse. A partial solar eclipse on July 12th. You guys, this is going to be interesting unless I sit down. Let me just find that rock. I was like, I had it in my mind that it was so close. It's not. So, July 12th, planet. New moon eclipse. And this brings up issues when we're moving into it's a slow progressional move where the nodes of the moon move into Cancer, Capricorn. Right now they're in, we will have a full eclipse in Aquarius, Leo. So they have been there for the last couple of years, and then we move into a new cycle, right? This is why different people born at different times have their nodes in different signs. The nodes of the moon, when the nodes of the moon come within 10 degrees of the sun and the moon, that's an eclipse. So either in a full moon or a new moon. So this is a partial eclipse because it's not within 10 degrees. So July 12th we'll have a partial Cancer eclipse. It brings up issues with the mother and mothering and how we treat our freaking mothers. What is happening? Who said this was okay? Nobody, right? The mothers, right? They carry the line. So when we treat the mothers badly, it affects the whole line. It's just poison. So, got to clean that up. So the issues with the mother's coming up, issues in your own life with your own mother, right? And we have to like have compassion. Like I look at my mother, single mama, 3 kids. Like you can't just, certain things happen. You can't just be angry about the way that she did things without understanding the whole system that got her there in the first place, right? So these issues with the mother come up. Thankfully, it's a new moon eclipse. Gosh, I'm just going to have to pop a squat. There's all this horse poo. You guys see that? I don't want to sit in that. So, issues with the mother. You want to look to where, for the full moon, which is going to be happening in Capricorn, Cancer. That's going to be June 28th. You want to look to where 6 degrees of Capricorn, Cancer, that axis, that polarity, you want to look to where that is in your chart, okay? So that full moon is creeping right up on us. Here's a rock. Okay, hopefully there's a good spot. Nope, not a good rock. Not my rock. There's a rock up here. Oh, here it is. Let me show you. Maybe. Never mind. It's a rock. Trust me. It's a cozy one. Okay, so... all right. Now I can sit down. All right. Right? We all know this. It's one of those things that we're like, we all know this about the mother. We all know that it's crap, right? And I've had this experience of having this beautiful foreign exchange student from Japan staying at our house, and she just watches me like running circles. I'm like, oh wow, I guess I really do a lot, and she's like, what is she doing now? Oh, okay, now she's like hopping at her desk and she's doing something. Now she's up and she's making lasagna at 7 o'clock in the morning. And I'm just like, to have an observer watching and then to like talk to her and hear about how it is in Japan and how, the whole family helps and all these things. It just makes you realize, like the mothers is just like, it's just a sad story here in America. And then again, of course, I wanted to just really quickly mention before I get back to the astrology, because it's connected to the astrology, is what's happening politically, not politically, like it's happening to families right now with parents and children, especially, mothers and babies being separated from each other, and how that lights up. I was talking about this, so I apologize if you saw this on my Instagram story, but I wanted to just really quickly talk about how that trauma cycle lives within each of us, and that we're not aware of this, but it lives within each of us, and some of us are aware of this, especially if you've had traumatic experiences, but this trauma cycle lives inside of us. And so when we see, especially as mothers, when we see babies being separated from their mothers, how that lights up our own trauma cycle and our own DNA. And not just mothers, that lights up fathers too, it lights up humans. And when it lights us up in this way, it really gets us into a frozen state. And so I just want to remind you that it's important to do the work. It's important to call the people. It's important to share. It's important to do the work. We have to do the work, right? And to do the work, I think it takes more than just those things. I think I'm really feeling a call to like get more involved politically long term, which I'm sure would go over really smoothly, but I'm really interested in that. And just like, what are the things that we can do for longevity's sake? As we're coming up to midterm here, like where Donald Trump has been in office now, it'll be 2 years in the fall. Who is running against him? Like, what is our plan here? Because it seems like no one is talking about that, and everybody's just focusing on how bad it is. Like, do we want our focus to be, I am not negating what's happening right now. It's very important that we know what's happening and for us to be involved, but I just want to really quickly remind you that we have to have the foresight, we have to have the vision, we have to have the pathway out of this. We cannot get stuck into, oh, he's just, it's a repeat of history. We don't want to go there. We want to really bring our foresight and our vision to how this can be different. Okay, so that's me and my soapbox, and I just want to remind you guys of that so that we all don't get frozen and stuck in this trauma cycle, okay? And so when you see these things being shared, know when to take your breaks, know when to get out in nature, know when it's affecting your mothering. Know when it's affecting you as a human, that you're not able to function or do your work, okay? Because the most important thing right now is that we're all doing our work and we're all doing our, taking care of ourselves, okay? So, happy solstice, Kendra. Sorry, I just kind of was a downer. All right, so I hope you guys are having a beautiful day. And as I was walking, I was talking, and it was really hard for me to focus, so I just want to make sure I open up my notes here. And this is a big, big cycle. So you want to know a lot of things about your chart during this time frame. And if you don't know your chart that well, this is a time to get to know your chart really well. If you have more fixed energy in your chart, fixed signs in your chart, if you, like today we're talking about someone's chart that has, she's a Scorpio rising with Leo at midheaven, and Aquarius at the IC, and then Taurus at the descendant, okay? So this is an archetype or a person that's really going to be feeling this time frame more, because we have this grand cross getting lit up that is in the fixed sign. So it's in Taurus, Leo, Aquarius, and Jupiter. Hi. And so if you have more fixed energy in your chart, it's going to be a more frustrating time. I keep talking about, I've been feeling challenged with getting like a firm grounding, because that for some reason is really coming up around, there's a grand water trine that's getting lit up, and then this grand cross is like, it's not exact, it's more, it'll like start to like get activated, and then it kind of backs off, and then it'll start to get activated again, and then it'll back off, and it will really be around the end, so it'll be on the next, so we do this monthly, so it'll be on the next talk where I talk about that a little bit more, but just know that it's happening. And when these grand cross, like I was just doing a chart reading for somebody, and she was like, I was trying to explain to her because she had something in her chart, and I was like, well, let me give you an example, and we'll pull up the chart for today. And so I pulled up the chart. This was yesterday. I pulled up the chart for the day, and I was like, so this would be a baby born today. And I was like, oh my gosh. Like I was just like tripping out, because there's that grand cross is kind of getting lit up. And then there's that, the grand water trine, which is just emotions, emo. You're just like, whoa. So it's intense times. If you're feeling it, this is why. Like there is just like, when you have charts like that, it's just going to be unescapable. It's big times. Okay. And so this grand water trine is Jupiter in Scorpio, which it's retrograde right now. There's lots of planets retrograde. That's what I'm going to talk about next. So there's lots of planets retrograde, but this grand water trine is with Jupiter in Scorpio, which will be going direct July 10th, right before, yep, you guessed it, right before this new moon. It'll be a new moon partial eclipse in Cancer on July 12th. Big time. That's when I was talking about the mother issues, bringing up issues within your own mothering if you're a mother, or the way you were mothered, and then just the sense of this idea of like what mothers represent in our society, how we treat mothers, how you yourself have treated other mothers, and so in nurturing intuition, there's a lot of just like spiritual downloads happening right now that can make you feel a little wonky. They make you feel a little off your center, off kilter. I know I'm getting just crazy amounts of information, and it can be a little ungrounding. Okay, so we have like Neptune in Pisces, Jupiter in Scorpio, like I just talked about, and it's going direct a few days before. When Jupiter is retrograde, if you want to go back and watch my Jupiter through the houses, that's going to be really helpful to you, because when Jupiter is retrograde, it's all this expansion that typically would happen on the outer landscape. When it goes retrograde, it starts happening on the internal landscape. So when it goes direct again on July 10th, we'll notice this switch over again, where we have more energy to expand these issues, especially with the divine feminine, because Scorpio is a feminine sign, and it's the magic maker of the feminine. So those kind of issues, that's when we saw like the Me Too movement was when it was direct, then it went retrograde, and we started figuring out kind of where our own resistance to moving forward as a society that honors the divine feminine, because that lives within all of us. You know, we might even be someone who makes magic, but then we kind of judge ourselves, or we have our own fears around it. Okay, so that's all up. And then the last part of that grand water trine is the sun in Cancer, and so that's in newly in the degrees of Cancer, and then there's one other thing that's happening that I don't have in front of me, so I will add that to this, but I can't go and look. Hi, Caitlin. Oh my goodness, how are you? It's been too long. 4 years since I've seen you, cousin. I love you. Okay, so one more thing I want to talk about. So let's talk about this full moon that's happening June 28th. It's coming up here next week. Can you believe that we're already to June 21st? That is crazy to me. Time just especially when it's nice out, it just moves by so quickly. So that full moon's next week. You really want to look back to your intentions that you set at the new moon. If you set intentions at the new moon, looking at those, and then Capricorn is the archetype of, even though it's a feminine sign, it's kind of confusing, it's the archetype of the father. And you know, fathers need a touch of feminine or else they're going to be way too harsh with their kids. So fathers do have that touch of feminine in there, just like we as women have masculine, men have feminine too. And so it is the sign of the father. So when we have a full moon in the sign of the father and the sun's in the sign of the mother, this can be a really interesting full moon. And you want to look to what houses where Capricorn is in your chart and where Cancer is in your chart. And so for the chart example, for this full moon, we have Cancer in the 3rd house. Capricorn in the 3rd house and Cancer in the 9th house. I'm looking at the chart in my head. And the Capricorn in the 3rd house, so the full moon for this person would be around 3rd house things, feeling like things are coming to the surface and wanting to be known or be seen about 3rd house, which is Gemini's house, communication, dealing with others, especially siblings or close friends, inner circle. This person might notice that they want to actually talk about things more or get some process work around their own idea of the inner father. So like moving things forward in the world, they might have a drive to want to complete something. And so definitely it takes that kind of masculine push, and this might be the time for it. When Cancer's in the 9th house, and so she will have that activation to the 9th house too, which is 9th house is learning and teaching. So either this person might want to start teaching something, nurturing. It's definitely like when you have Cancer in the 9th house, you are a nurturer and you can share that with others. You can teach others how to be more nurturing. You can teach children how to care for each other. So it's a very nurturing placement and teaching. It's the archetype of the teacher. But it also might be that this person having the new moon closer to July 12th, that this person might want to go back to school to, get a degree in something, or they might decide to teach something. So knowing that this axis point, the 3rd and the 9th house, is about learning, speaking, teaching, understanding, expanding the mind, and expanding the communication is very helpful. So this person's having that. Also, this person has, like I said, the Scorpio rising and the Leo at the midheaven, and Leo at the midheaven, but they also have Mars. Mars in Leo is very, very, very energetic, very playful, but also needs to move. So definitely they might be noticing, especially moving closer to Leo time, and we're going to have that eclipse at the end of July, which we'll talk about more. And so this person might notice that they need to actually keep moving and find some activities that move some energy. And really it could be, that this is tied into some new work aspect too, because Mars at the midheaven definitely is being seen in the world that way. And so it might be a new vocation or new kind of craft or aspect to that. That Leo is definitely very playful, and so there might be some aspect to your work around that. Hi. So that is important to know. And then also what I noticed about this person's chart that I'm talking about for this transit for this month is that Jupiter, as I was just talking about, is moving right over her north node, expanding. Wherever Jupiter is in your chart, it expands those topics, it expands those themes. So we have Jupiter in our natal chart the day we are born, and then we also have it transiting through where it is in the sky right now. Like up in the sky, it's somewhere, and it's hitting on a point in our chart, and that's going to expand it. And so for this person, it's hitting on her north node. And if you've worked with me before, you've heard me talk about the nodes of the moon. The north node represents our dharma. It's where our soul wants to go. It's like pulling us, even though it's uncomfortable, and we're like, I don't want to do that video. Don't make me do it. And then the south node is where we've been. So it's a little bit more comfortable. And we might be like, oh, this is so familiar. Yeah, let me just do this. And really, our life is not about totally falling back. It's about starting to move towards this north node, okay? So, that being said, the north node is our dharma, the south node is our karma. This is just my belief, or, some astrologers believe this, right? And because of that, when Jupiter is over the dharma point, it's really going to be expanding on where the soul wants to go. So it's really time to listen. And if you don't listen, you don't listen, you don't listen, things come up to make you listen. So just listen. And so for this person, her north node is in Scorpio. Magical. Remember we talked about the Scorpio is the feminine, the magic maker, and it's the I think of Cancer. So let me talk about the water signs for a second. Just let me go back. So Cancer in the chart is the mother. It's nurturing. It's intuitive. It's soft. Even inside that shell, it's very soft. And then Scorpio has the stinger. It's like the grandma. If we're talking about not our culture, okay? Let's not talk about our culture. Let's talk about like back in time culture. The grandmother, she's harsh. She's much more in her magic. She's much more in her power than the mother. And she brings with that just like, if you're not in line, she's gonna put you in line, And so the magic maker is the grandmother, and the just like they're all knowing, and they have this ability to really see past certain things that the mother might miss, right? So if that is where your dharma, your soul wants to go, if that's what's being expanded upon right now, then there's some aspect to the self that needs to be looked at around those topics, okay? And then, the south node is in Taurus, which can be stubborn. So let's talk now that I've talked about, I didn't do the last water sign. Maybe I should do that. You guys, sorry, I'm a little scattered. It's exciting. I get excited. Okay, so I talked about Cancer and I talked about Scorpio. The last water sign is Pisces. So if, Cancer's the mother, Scorpio's the grandmother, Pisces is all of the ancestors. They're like right behind me right now. Like all the ancestors that have passed on, like that kind of feminine, that kind of magic. It's the unseen. It's like the spiritual insight that you get that you don't even know where it comes from. All of a sudden, great grandma Tutu's coming in and telling you need to eat more sweet potatoes. Like it just doesn't make any sense. You're like, okay, I don't know. And of course, not everybody has this, but if you have more Pisces in your chart, or you have, more water in your chart, you might be someone that gets these messages and hints from your ancestors, okay? So Pisces is just completely, it's that nurturing from divine, from source. It's not, from a direct in a seen place. It's from the unseen, okay? It's this like the ether. So that's Pisces. Okay, so it's a little bit harder to explain, but it makes sense if you have any Pisces friends and you don't understand them. That's why, okay? And so, now I want to talk about that grand cross, because it is all fixed. And when we get a grand cross that's in all the fixed signs, it is just struggle. If you're not aware of it and you're trying to fight against it, you're trying to hold your ground, you're trying to I'm holding on to the rock here. I'm just not going to move. I'm just going to stick with this and follow through and just stay with the program here, then it's going to be a lot of suffering. And so there's things that just need to get broken up, and this grand cross is going to break it up, especially when Uranus is involved. Uranus is in Taurus now. It's in the first few degrees, and it's newly there. So we want to honor that and recognize that that's why things can feel unstable as well, because Taurus is all about stability, and when Uranus is there, it shifts and changes to whatever we feel like is stable in our lives. There's just this instability that is necessary for us to create the change and to create the movement that needs to, the movement needs to move. Let the movement move. Who says that? Nako, I think, or somebody. So that's Uranus and Taurus, okay? Then we have Jupiter in Scorpio again. Yes, and that is a fixed sign. Even though it's a water sign that's getting lit up in this trine, it's also getting lit up in this fixed cross because it's a fixed sign. And it is a fixed, stubborn, as I said, magical and just like deep sign of just really unearthing and bringing to the surface all sorts of things that need to be looked at and expanded upon in order for us to heal. And it's uncomfortable. This is a very uncomfortable placement for Jupiter to be in. When Jupiter was in Sagittarius last year, it's a lot more comfortable, even though things might have been happening and expanding and changing. It was a lot more comfortable than this type of change. This year is different. Jupiter will be in Scorpio until, I think, the fall, November maybe. And then it will move on. No, it will move into Sagittarius. I'm sorry, it was in Libra, and then it's moving into Sagittarius. Sorry, I goofed that up. And so as it moves into Sagittarius, it's in its home placement, which will be expanding, but not as uncomfortable as it is now. Sorry, I goofed that up. So it was in Libra. You can trust me. I know what I'm talking about. Okay, so I want to know, I don't even see who's on here with me, but I would love to know what kind of questions you guys have about this season. I don't know if you got a chance to open your workbook, but if you did, I would love to hear any questions you have about the workbook. And I'm just going to look and see what other notes I have. So the most important thing is to know where these things are happening in your chart. If you have questions about that, you definitely can ask me. You can message me. If you are in my Cosmic workbook program, which it's $36 for the year, so it's a pretty worthy investment because you get a workbook each month and then a confusing call like this where I talk really fast. It's awesome. And then you can go back and like re-listen and pause it and be like, what was she talking about? And then if you have your chart out, it's really helpful. So this, the fixed, you want to know where the fixed signs are in your chart. Basically, you want to know where everything is in your chart. But most importantly, you want to know the fixed signs, Cancer and Capricorn. And then if you have any planets right there for any of the fixed signs, right? So like, for instance, the example chart has Chiron, which many of us do. If you were born between, I think it's 75 and 84, I'm not exact. If you were born between that time frame, you have Chiron in the first, no, sorry, if it was 74 to 79, I think, then it's in like the first few degrees of Taurus. And the first few degrees of Taurus is where Uranus is. So your natal Chiron, the wounded healer, is getting activated by the sudden change maker that breaks things apart. It's uncomfortable. If you guys are having a hard time and you were born during this time, that's probably why. And so you really want to give yourself grace. You really want to give yourself healing opportunities, working with healers, working with therapists, like bring it all on and do not feel bad about it because this is a hard transit. You know, even as astrologers, I do a lot of trades with astrologers because I'm someone that just loves, that's how I learn, is like, well, you read my chart and I'll read your chart and let's read each other's charts and see and everybody has a little something different to share. It's so fun. But it's just also fun to see, like, we all talk about these hard transits. We all talk about, like, there are times, like, we can be, because we do the astrology, we can be more honest and more frank with each other, because we can be like, yeah, this transit, I wanted to kill myself. Like, that's what was going on for me, and I knew that was coming up, so I got extra therapy, or I got extra help, or I got this extra thing going on. But we all have hard transits. If you think anybody is left out of these harder transits, you are mistaking. And it's also very interesting to see in partnership how this also can be like so interesting to watch and to see, is if you were born at around the same time. I have couples who come to see me and they were born a month apart in the same year. You're going to be going through these hard transits at the same time. It's so crazy. And I don't know what's easier, that or going through them at different times, and then, oh, like, I'm doing okay, now he's having a hard time, and that makes it really difficult. So I don't know what's easier, but just know it's all hard and it's all challenging. And then it's also all beautiful, and it's all part of why we're here, and we're learning and growing. And one of the things about karma that not many people talk about is karma is happening right now, today. It's happening. Either you're building some, or you're dropping some, or you're burning some off, or you're helping this one guy in the street by giving him $5, and that, you know, that guy actually saved your life 2 lifetimes ago. So if you would have said no to him, like, you know, like, it's just like all these things are happening on the daily. And the choices that we make are whether we're adding more karma or burning more karma off, okay? And so I just want to remind you of that. It's like, this is motion. We are in motion. We are moving. We are not stagnant. We are not set. Nothing is set. Today could change, you know, like, I am doing fine right now. 2 hours from now, I might get in a car accident. I'm not going to, don't worry, knock on rock. But I'm just saying, like, nothing is permanent. Everything is temporary. And that helps you to see that it's really important to make good choices and to be in alignment with where you want to go with the choices that you make. And one of the ways to do this is to know what's happening in your chart, because you can know, well, geez, okay, this full moon that's coming up is starting to, like, it will be starting to build basically because of this new moon was a super moon. We're coming into the full moon and then the eclipse season. We'll start to feel, okay, so I'm trying to think of the dates. I think it's Wednesday. So we'll start to feel the effects of this full moon starting to build on like Saturday or Sunday. So just be aware, like, look at where this is in your chart and just start to be aware of where you can give yourself permission to be kinder to yourself, to be kinder to others, where you can set up time for yourself where you're contemplative and you're writing and you're clearing your mind, or where you can talk to a friend and connect. We have to set up time for play. I was just talking to another friend who has her friend has a friend that has an Excel spreadsheet for her life as a mother, and she actually sets in schedules and time for planning. Like, she'll be like, I'm going to sit for an hour and do my meal planning. I'm like, that's brilliant. Like, I don't think I can live that way. I don't know if I want to live that way, but if I did, that's brilliant. Like, that's so brilliant to schedule in contemplative time, to schedule in planning time. Like, I've never in my life scheduled in planning time, but also scheduling in playtime. And that's something that I can talk to you guys about, because play is so important. Play is so important in our lives, especially in this high stress atmosphere. And like, even today, I was like, I was posting about something else, and I was like, wow, should I even be posting this with everything that's happening in the world? And I'm like, no, especially with everything that's happening in the world, we need to continue to really focus on our joy and focus on our play, because what's the point of living otherwise? And like I said, like, we really need to set our sights on where we want to go and how we want to be as a society, while still doing that work to like help people and assist, but also not losing that vision, because that's all there is, really. If we don't have the vision, then we don't have a life. Do you hear that? If you don't have a vision, you don't have a life, okay? So nobody has questions, huh? Let me see. I'm getting the feeling that like half the people didn't get my email, so they're probably waiting on Zoom for me. And I'll have a recording of this, and I also am going to add in the charts. So I'll add in the charts for the full and the new moon. The new moon, again, is on July 12th in 20 degrees of Cancer. And it's a partial eclipse because the nodes of the moon, the nodes of the moon are not within 10 degrees of the moon. But it's still a really big one. And then we have the full moon, which is next week on the 28th, which is in Capricorn. And you want to get out there and look at that moon. It's going to be beautiful. It's going to be big. It's going to be juicy. And it's going to bring up a lot of our parent issues. Yay! So look at where this is happening in your chart, Capricorn and Cancer, that axis point. And since the new moon was in Gemini, new supermoon in Gemini, and that was planting the seeds, and it was really Gemini, so like quick thinking and surfacey and like lots of ideas focused, this full moon is going to bring up the deeper issues that keep us from that surface, that keep us from just the ease, keep us from like keeping it simple. Really looking at our own resistance and how we create blockages in our life because our belief system. I can't tell you how many times I work with clients, I'm like, wait, where did that come from? And they're like, well, this is the way it is. It's always been this way. And I'm like, okay, but it doesn't have to be that way. Like, that's just something that you keep putting to the surface of your mind. You keep blocking yourself with it. So, and I'm not saying this to like belittle anyone, because I notice that I do this too. I'm just saying that it's when you can like hear other people saying that you're just like, wow, we block ourselves off from joy. We block ourselves off from freedom. And because we have this story running about how it is and how it's going to be, and how, hi dragonfly, and how it's not going to work because it didn't work in the past, so it's not going to work this time. And it's like, okay, well, if you say that, then it's definitely not, right? Okay, you guys, it's beautiful. It's solstice. There's dragonflies. They love me. They love you. Look, there's two of them right there. Oh my gosh. Okay, they're going to come back around, and I don't know how to turn the camera around. So if you have questions, low battery. Moon, oh my gosh, here we go. Mandy, thank goodness you have a question. I was starting to feel like I was alone out here. My moon is in Cancer. Oh, thank you for asking this question. I'm so grateful that you asked it because it's super important. And we have other Cancerian moon people out there. I love my Cancer moon people. So, what does this mean? Well, the moon, where the new moon is going to be right over your natal moon, that's deep. That's like deep emotions coming to the surface, but also it's, just like a very intuitive time for you. So think about what the moon is our internal emotional area, right? And it's in Cancer, so it's exalted. It's in its home placement. And so, it's not exalted, it's in its home placement. And so then you really want to just give yourself a lot of space and more contemplative time. You do not want to be like extra busy at that time. So we're talking about the new moon, especially. With the full moon, you actually might notice, because it's going to be that the moon is in Capricorn and the sun is in your moon. And that actually, even though it sounds like typically we say the full moons are more agitated, that actually might feel more comfortable to you, and you might be able to work with those energies better. Then the new moon is really just about you going deep within, and like, you'll probably be like downloading. If you can like sit and meditate for longer and write, you'll probably get a lot of information. What house is that in? Can you tell me what house this is in for you? I'm trying to think of you are in Aquarius but I can't remember your rising. Are you in Aquarius rising too? We've all been a mess, Mandy. We're all a mess. We're a lovely puddle. 4th house, girl. I knew this about you, but what the hell? Oh my God. No wonder you're a mess. Oh, honey, I wish I could hug you right now. Okay. So 4th house, the reason I'm saying that, right? And I know Mandy knows this, but for all of you other watchers out there, the 4th house is Cancer's house. So not only does she have her moon in the 4th house, which, can be just kind of self-protective. Yeah, really. Oh, and then the Aquarius, which is also just like thinks things about people, like thinks people don't like you and stuff. Why? Why do Aquariuses think that? I don't understand. So the 4th house is Cancer's house. So it's just like triple whammy. Wow. Okay. So, but that's bringing some strengths forward. I would say I hope you have your kids in camp this summer, especially the week of that new moon. I would probably try to figure out some trades or childcare and get some alone time, girl. Get out into the woods alone or something, or just you and David. Okay, well, let me know. Let me know how that works out. That's what I want to hear. Report back. That's your homework. Yeah, but just being extra cautious of just not blowing up and like with the people in your life and just like taking on too much, feeling too much for other people. Especially, I don't know if you're getting lit up with what's happening right now, but just trying not to pay attention to media as much and just taking care of yourself, like get yourself out. Yeah. Okay. Any other questions? I'm here. Here I am. I'm live. I'm live on Facebook out here. Can you guys see? Let's see. Oh. Yay. Okay. Well, if you guys have questions, Okay, if you guys have questions, let me know. I hope you have a beautiful solstice. I love you all. I'm sure I forgot things that I'll be emailing you, but you have your workbook. And if you have questions about the workbook, let me know, and I'll see you next month, if not sooner, hopefully sooner. Bye.